because I've never done this before. So if you're on my Facebook, you're gonna see me moving this really quick. I just need to share this into a group before I can get started. And then I'm gonna explain to you guys what is going on. Okay, so as soon as this shares, we should be good. So I'm gonna tell you guys why I'm doing this, what my idea is, and all that jazz. I wanna make sure everything's recording. Are we going? No. Okay, we're good to go. Okay, so what I decided to do today, if you guys are watching this live, is I decided to live stream how I record an episode of the podcast. So this is recording right now for the podcast that will go on iTunes and Stitcher. If you guys are watching this live video on Instagram or Facebook, hello, I'm so glad you're here watching. And I'm gonna do a little intro and then I'm gonna kind of jump right in so you guys can see how this goes. Forgive me in advance if this gets a little messy, a little sloppy. I've never done this before. I've never live streamed a podcast recording. So if you hear dogs barking, if you hear things going on, this is how it is. I sit at my dining room table with no makeup on, and this is how the magic happens. So, okay, ready? I'm gonna go into the intro and we're gonna start. Hello guys, and welcome to episode 37 of Her Best Fucking Life. So if you guys are watching this live on Facebook or Instagram, then you have a better idea of what's going on once this episode comes out. But this is the first time ever I've decided to live stream my recording of the podcast on both Facebook and Instagram. So you guys can see what it's like. You can see what it looks like when I'm recording an episode. So if you guys are not following me already on Facebook or Insta, make sure you guys go follow me over there because I might start doing this more often so you guys can get a look into what it's like recording a podcast and what it looks like. It's not in a pretty studio looking all polished and fresh. It is literally me sitting at my dining room table with no makeup on and just scrubbing it, recording a podcast. So I hope you guys enjoy, but let's jump right into today's episode because what I want to talk to you guys about today is being young and sober. I got a DM a few days ago and someone specifically asked me to talk about this in my next episode. You know, she said there's a lot of things that come up being sober as a young person. You know, we know the basic things that come up about sobriety, but I feel like there's so many different things that come up when we are young, and she said specifically like under 30. And since I've been through it for the past 3 years, I definitely wanted to come on and talk about it because I think it does have a lot of more unique, complex aspects to it, different things that play into sobriety when you're young that maybe may or may not when you're older. I think there's just a lot of things in our young adult life. It can be a crazy time. It can be a fucked up time. Like, let's be honest. There's dating, there's relationships, there's, you know, like growing into the person you're gonna be. There's so many life changes that happen in your 20s. We all change so much in our 20s. Like the person I was 9 years ago when I turned 20 and the person I am today, almost 30, are like night and day. And if you know me personally, you guys know that. So that's a little bit of what we're going to talk about today. I want to jump into a lot of different areas with this. I want to talk about, you know, how being young and sober can be in dating and growing up, in school, in friendships, in career, like all the things. So we're going to cover all of those areas today. There is no sponsor for today's podcast episode because I just decided to do this pretty impromptu. So I did want to tell you guys a little bit though. If you want to hear more of my story about why I got sober, a little bit of my background with it, and also how difficult it was getting sober for me for the first 2 years and kind of how I figured all my shit out and came back from my rock bottom, you guys should definitely check out my first book, Sober as Fuck. It's on Amazon and Kindle. It's my first book, baby, and I absolutely love it. I poured my heart and soul into it. I put so much of myself into it. It was the first time I really opened up about being young and in sobriety and really like cut the shit and was extremely vulnerable, like an open book. I just cracked myself open and like poured everything into this book like it was a journal. So if you guys want to hear, or if you guys would like to check that out and read that, you can go find the book. But let's get right into today's episode because I feel like there's going to be a lot of stuff to talk about, like lots of it. So let me just, live video, you're going to see me double checking that we're still recording. Okay, good to go. So first things first, when you are young and you go into this journey of sobriety, I think a lot of not only young women, but young men, anyone can relate that when you're young, like alcohol plays a huge part of so many things. it's a part of, you know, you're experimenting with new things, you're going to parties, you're being social, you're making new friends, high school, college. A lot of things involve partying, you know, going to social events where drinking is going to be present. And that for me, I know was a huge part of my downward spiral. Was I already had, you know, things that I needed to work out that I wasn't dealing with, but my like high school and college, how I started out, I wanted to be popular. I wanted to be perfect. I wanted to be, you know, the girl everyone thought was cool. I wanted to be that person. I wanted to be seen as someone that people like wanted to be envious of her and want her life. And that was why I was like so into partying so heavy. I wanted to be at all the parties. I wanted to hang out with the popular kids. And I think this happens for a lot of young adults. Like that is what happens. We want to be cool. We want to be at the parties. So we start going to parties young. You know, I started drinking and going to parties when I was like 13 or 14 years old. And I think that's the case for a large percentage of young women and men today. And, you know, that comes along with that peer pressure. You know, you're at the party, everyone's drinking, they're giving you drinks, they want you to take shots. Like, it's hard to pull yourself back from that when you're there if you're in that mindset of like, well, I want to be with the cool kids. I want to do what the cool kids are doing. I want to be there and do that and have that fun. And I want to be talking at school after the weekend about whose party we were all at. Or, you know, I want to be at the frat party and with all the most popular kids at the college. Like, I want to be in the sorority and partying with everyone. Like, we want to be that person. We want to be seen as popular. We want to be seen as fun. We want everyone to see us and be like, wow, she's got a great life. She's really got it going on. She always is having fun. And I think that's a huge part of being young and sober that we all kind of fall into, is that trap of wanting to be popular, wanting to be fun, wanting to do what everyone's doing, and wanting to be a part of the good time, wanting to be a part of the party. And that doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna go on to have a problem with alcohol, but when it starts at a young age, if you don't know how to handle that shit, navigate that shit, and get it under control at some point, then absolutely, that can funnel you right into a problem with alcohol in the future, which is exactly what happened with me. I started out, you know, just innocently going to high school parties, and it just snowballed throughout the years for me, and I lost total control. I was drinking constantly. I was blacking out every time I drank, and it all stemmed from, you know, that being young and wanting to party and have a good time. That was where it really started for me. So I think peer pressure, the social aspect of it for young people, it can really contribute to developing a problem with alcohol if you don't have like a level sense of how to get through it and how to do it normally and in a healthy way. And I think down the road, like in sobriety, that can make it very, very hard as well, because when you're young, everyone's social. Everyone wants to go out. Everyone wants to drink. Everyone wants to go to the bar, to the club. Let's go celebrate so-and-so's 21st birthday and do shots at midnight. It can make it very hard if you're a young person and you're sober, because it is around so much. It is such a big part of society. I've talked about the female drinking culture before on social media, in my podcast, everywhere, and it's very, very well and alive. If you know, bachelorette parties, there's a new show. I don't remember what channel it's on TV, but I just saw the previews for a new show, and it was like Nashville bachelorette parties, and it's just a bunch of girls going on their bachelorette parties getting shit-faced. Like, that is the whole premise of this show, is bachelorette parties shit-faced in Nashville. Like, that's the only way to do them. So I hope this is kind of tying in for you guys, like how we get this female drinking culture, like bachelorette party, the bride has to get shit-faced. Or, you know, like the mommy drinking culture, where it's like, oh, mommy needs her wine when the kids go to bed. Mommy needs her wine to deal with the kids. There's this like warped idea of needing to have alcohol in your life and society. And I think being young and sober, that's why it's so hard, because it's all around us. It's in everything we're doing in this time in our life. You know, we're going to bachelorette parties. We're having girls' nights. We're celebrating birthdays. We're having children. We're getting married. There's so many things that alcohol just kind of naturally gets drug into it. Okay. You guys, I stutter, so just get ready if you're doing this, because sometimes I have to pause and regather myself. Okay, so another place I want to talk about how being young and sober is a huge issue sometimes is in dating. And I have been through the ringer, y'all. I have been through it. Like, I was online dating while sober, and it was really unique, and it did make it difficult sometimes, and it made for some hella good stories, because you know, I would meet some people that really weren't bothered by it. They were like, oh, okay, that's cool, like no biggie. They acted like nothing was different about me just because I was sober, which was incredible. You know, that was an amazing way for people to handle it. I also met people while I was dating that proceeded to go on a date with me and get shit-faced by they had like 3 drinks before dinner even came and were already like slam drunk by the time we were done. And I'm just like, I literally told you at the beginning of this dinner, you knew when you met me I was sober, and your response to that was, well, as long as I can still drink, and laughed. And I was like, okay, like there will be no second date for this one, because obviously I don't expect people to like, you know, keep alcohol away from me. I'm gonna burst into flames, but at the same time, just be respectful of it. Don't throw it in my face. Don't get shit-faced in front of me on our first date when I've told you I'm sober. I feel like that's just like a common boundary lines, you know? I've had people that were really, really cool about it, that thought it was awesome that I was sober. When Andrew and I actually first met, Andrew like loved the fact that I didn't drink, and I thought it was kind of funny. And he was like, you know, I don't want to get involved with someone. I don't want to start a life with someone that's going to be a hot mess at the bar, and I have to worry about where she is and what she's doing and if she's getting really drunk. And he was like, I like the idea that, like, I know where you are. I know you're okay. I know you're not getting yourself into really dangerous situations because you're drinking or getting drunk. And he was like, I like that about someone that I'm thinking about building a future with, that I'm not going to have to worry about her being a hot mess shit show at the bar 24/7. And he was like really excited about it. So, I mean, that was really cool for me too. So I think it makes it difficult because I have had a lot of people ask me either in DMs or in groups or in live videos and stuff. I've had people a number of times ask me to talk about dating sober, because a lot of people get confused about like, okay, I'm young, I'm dating, so if I'm sober, like what do I do for a date? You know, a lot of people want to go out for drinks. Do I just tell them no? How do I go on a date? Like, what else can I do if I'm sober? And if you guys really think about it, like it's kind of sad that we think that way, that we can't go on a date sober. Like, why the fuck not? You know, there's plenty, go out for a damn meal. Like, that was always my thing. I would be like, take me out for fucking dinner. Like, I'm gonna get a fucking dinner out of this, whether we end up dating or not. Like, I'm gonna get a good meal, a good conversation. And, you know, that doesn't have to involve alcohol. There's nothing about alcohol that you need to date. And I know some people like the liquid courage aspect of it, where they're like, you know, I'm nervous when I date. I'm nervous to meet someone for the first time. Like, I feel like a drink will take the edge off for me. And what I really had to get comfortable with dating sober was, I kind of looked at it as I was meeting new people. It was always a new experience. It was an opportunity to hear someone else's story, to learn something new that maybe I didn't know. Maybe they would teach me something. It was interesting for me to focus more on the experience itself than being nervous and having to drink. It was like, no, I'm gonna live in the moment. I'm gonna take the opportunity to maybe connect with someone, to learn from someone, to have someone tell me about themselves. Maybe I'll learn something really cool from this person. And if it doesn't work out, like, you don't owe anything to them. Like, it's a date. You're not like signing your life over to this person. So there's really nothing to be so nervous about. And I began to really enjoy the fact that being young, sober, and dating, I was giving people like my full personality. I was giving people a full picture of who I really was. It wasn't the alcohol talking. It wasn't liquid courage coming out and me acting like a dumbass and saying stupid things or doing stupid things or making dumb choices. Like, I knew when I was young, dating, and sober that people were getting to see who I really was. They were getting to see the real person, the real, you know, the things that were important to me, the priorities, what I was looking for. They weren't looking at me as, well, maybe I can get a few drinks in her and she'll hook up with me. And like, people, I mean, don't get me wrong, sometimes you still meet those people, but people genuinely like knew that wasn't what it was going to be. So I felt like a lot of the people I met were genuinely like wanting to get to know me as a person, and would even sometimes ask me about sobriety and want to know about it. And some people were even like impressed by it. So I thought it was pretty cool. But, you know, with that aspect of dating young and sober, I think it gets easier if you are fully in acceptance of who you are, why you're sober, why you want to be sober, like why you're doing this. And I talk to a lot of my coaching clients about this that are stopping drinking, and with 99% of them, one of the first things we do in the beginning is I make them establish a why of why they want to be sober. Like, why do they want to quit drinking? What are the reasons motivating them behind making this change in their life? And once you have a solid like the solid definition of what your why is, and you've got like that solid foundation in your heart of why you're doing this, I think you guys are going to be a lot more confident in yourselves when it comes to dating sober. You're not going to feel so uneasy, so uncomfortable, so nervous about it, because you're going to be able to go into a date and meet someone young and sober and be like, hey, this is me, this is why I'm doing this, it's important to me. And people are going to respect that. They're going to see that from you. They're going to catch that vibe, like, wow, she's really on track. She knows what she wants. She knows what her priorities are. She knows what she's doing, and she's fucking doing it. Like, she's chasing after what she wants in life and what she knows is important. And that's a really admirable quality that a lot of people started to notice in me. So I want you guys to try to focus on that if you're nervous about being young and sober and dating, rather than how different it's going to be, or how nervous you might be, or how uncomfortable you might be. So you guys, I told you I'd pause and I like think for a second. Okay, so let's see. So next, like being young and sober and, you know, in your career. This is something I've worked with a lot of people that, you know, if you work in certain lines of business, you're going to have to deal with the drinking environment. If you work in any kind of like social environment, like I had one client that she worked in like event planning and party planning for like a lot of big hotels in a very big city. And, you know, part of her job was planning weddings, planning events where there was going to be alcohol around, you know, having to go to things, always getting invited to happy hours, like this environment where alcohol was just around her. And I know she struggled for a while with it, because she said, like, you know, I'm young and I'm in this career, I have this great job now, and I'm being expected to go to these things. And, you know, how do I tell someone at work that I'm sober? How do I tell someone and not come off as, you know, something being wrong with me in my career when I share with people that I don't drink? Like, she was so nervous about it. And I can totally relate, because, you know, I got sober at, 26 years old. So I was working, and a lot of people it would randomly come up sometimes. You know, I have my sober date tattooed on my inner arm, and, you know, there was a lot of times I would be doing people's brows at the brow bar I work at, and they'd be like, oh, what are the Roman numerals on your arm? And like, at first I was a little uncomfortable with it, and I would just say like, oh, it's Roman numerals for a date. And I would just literally leave it at that. I wouldn't even explain it any further. And it got to a point where I had to learn, again, getting secure in my why and why I was doing this. I had to get to a place where I was okay telling people that I was sober, and not feeling like they were gonna look at me like I was different, or like I was wrong, or like I was guilty. I didn't want people to see me like that in my line of work, you know, doing makeup for weddings. I didn't ever say anything when the brides would offer me mimosas when they were getting ready for their wedding and I was doing their makeup, because I didn't want to go into a thing like, oh, I'm actually sober, so no thanks on the mimosas. Like, you know, there's sometimes you don't want that. I think we're fearful of the stigma or the attitude or the stereotype that people are going to take on of us in a career setting if we share that we are young and we are sober. And it can make it kind of a difficult thing to navigate sometimes, because I think we get nervous, we overthink things, we don't want people to look at us differently, we don't want people to look at us, especially in a career aspect, like we can't do a good job, like we're not successful, like we're not capable of, you know, doing a good job in our career. So I think we hold back sometimes. But as I mentioned earlier, once you get secure in your why, you get more secure in sobriety and really understanding why you're doing this, and you've got that why this is important, why it means a lot to you, and why it is a good thing in your life, why it's a positive change for you. Now, when anyone asks me at work, I tell them, I'll say, oh, that's my sobriety date on my arm. And you'd be shocked how many times people have the utmost respect and are like, oh my God, that's amazing, congratulations. A lot of them share with me a personal experience they've had, like, you know, my father was an alcoholic, you know, my sister has an issue with alcohol. People will really come out and open up to you and be more respectful of your situation than I think we sometimes like overthink and think they're gonna freak out, and they really won't. Like I said, people have opened up, shared stories with me. I've had people congratulate me, you know, praise what I'm doing, be like, wow, congratulations, that's awesome, good for you. And I think I mentioned it in one of the previous episodes, just a couple episodes ago on the podcast, about owning the fuck out of your story, about how there was a corporate manager in our store and someone asked me, or someone told him that I have written books, and he asked, what do you write about? And, you know, in that moment, I could have been ashamed and not wanted to share that I was a young, sober person, because I didn't want him to stereotype me. But I stood up for once and I was like, actually, I wrote about my sobriety. I've been, you know, I'm 3 years sober now, and I wrote about my sobriety journey, like how I got sober and how it went for me. And he was like, that's incredible. Like, good for you. and there was no judgment. I think we fear so much judgment sometimes that we create this worry in our minds and we overthink things when really it might not even be there, and we kind of psych ourselves out. So, you know, really being able to like own your story and really be secure in why you're doing this and have that in your heart and in your truth is going to help you guys be more comfortable being young and sober in a career setting as well. This is where I space out and I forget what I want to say next because I start rambling. Okay, let's get back into the zone. Get comfy. So, you know, I think a lot of people do get this fear about being open with their sobriety when they're young, and they think that it's going to put this stereotype on them. And I think of a lot of it has to do with the idea that we have like a stereotype of people that are sober. And I talk about this a lot in the Facebook group I'm in. It's called Slaying Sobriety. I'll have it down in the show notes if you guys want to check it out. But we talk about it a lot in there, that people often get this stereotype of people that are sober as being, you know, damaged or sick or wrong, or that, you know, they're weak, or like it's a death sentence. Like you're done for life because you're sober. Like you're always going to have like this dark cloud over you and you're not going to be able to do anything. And I think that's why some people are so afraid of being open and proud of their sobriety when they're young, is because they're fearful of that judgment, that stereotype, that attitude that they might get, where people might see them as, you know, the sober girl. I used to joke around all the time that, I literally told my friends this story. I used to joke around all the time that my friends would always laugh when I was single and be like, you should go on The Bachelorette. Like, you should go on The Bachelorette. And I would always laugh, and I was like, you know how everyone has their thing on the show? Like, everyone has their, like, stereotype on the show. Like, there's the mom, there's, like, the crazy girl, there's, like, the nerd. I was like, they would literally label me, and it would be like, Sarah, 29, the sober girl. And then my whole storyline would be, like, me navigating The Bachelorette being sober. And I think people, like, we laugh about it, but it's true. Like, people want to sometimes label you as, you know, like, oh, she's sober. And I think that's what we get so fearful about, being young and sober and open with it. And I think if we could just get more secure with ourselves inside of it and be, you know, really putting in what's in our heart of why we're doing this, we're going to be a lot more comfortable in it. We're going to dodge the worry. We're not going to overthink things so much. And we're going to be a lot more secure with ourselves within our entire journey of being sober and living in sobriety. So one last point I do want to make, being young and sober, is that it's still going to be hard. It's still going to be very hard. One of the hardest things for me was my friendships, you know, the people around me. One of my best friends, we don't even speak anymore, and it's really fucking sad, but it just got to a point where I had to accept the fact that things were changing about my life, and things were, you know, going into a different level in my life, and there were some things that weren't going to come along with me, no matter how bad I wanted them to, no matter how hard I tried. And some of those were friendships of mine. You know, I really tried to make them work. I tried to still make plans, and it just, you know, it became very clear to me at one point that some people weren't going to have that friendship with me how we used to have, or weren't going to be a part of my life as much anymore because I wasn't drinking anymore and I wasn't partying. And I want to tell you guys, okay, navigating sobriety young, you know, your friends are a big deal. Like, your friends are your family when you are young, and even throughout life. But when you're young, I feel like it holds so much more meaning and so much more depth. And it was really hard to let go of some of those relationships and realize that some people weren't going to be around in my life being sober. And like I said, being young, I think it carries a lot more heaviness, a lot more meaning. And it can be really disappointing to watch the fact that your life is changing is going to drive people out of it. But what I had to look at as the big picture is, you know, being young and sober, if some people fall out of my life, if some people don't want to be a part of my life as much anymore, if they don't want to share those relationships with me anymore, that's not me. That's not on me. That's not my problem. That's their thing. And what I had to look at it as was, you know, if people are going to let your relationship with alcohol affect the friendship they have with you, like, you've got to ask yourself in that moment, are those really your fucking friends? Because that's what I had to ask myself. It was like, a friend wouldn't do this. A friend, like a true friend, a friend that you would consider almost family, like someone you would call your sister almost, like, would they be the ones to just drop away and not have any relationship deeper than partying with you? Are they the ones that are going to leave as soon as you aren't partying anymore? And I had to ask myself, like, is that a real fucking friendship? It's not. And I had to tell myself, like, this person wasn't your friend. Like, these people were not your friends. Don't take it so personally when they drop off, because clearly once the party got removed and the party got cut out, there was nothing left deeper to hold them there on their part. So let them go. Let them the fuck go, you know, move on. There's a ton of other beautiful, amazing people in your life, I guarantee, that want to be a part of it and care about you regardless of whether you're sober or drinking, and they're not gonna leave and not be your friend anymore just because you get sober. The people that truly care, the people that are truly your like ride or die girls or guys, are going to stay there with you. And something like getting sober isn't gonna push them off. And if it does, then I think it answered your question right there. Those aren't really true friends of yours. Those aren't really real friends that are gonna be there with you for the long run. So good riddance, you know? You don't need them. There's many other people that love to be in your life, and those are the people you should be putting more priority in. All right, let's wrap this podcast up, you guys. Hi, Andrew. Thanks for saying I look beautiful. I have no makeup on, but my lashes look really nice today. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you guys are watching the live stream of this podcast episode on Facebook or Instagram, I hope you guys have really enjoyed getting to not only hear this episode about what it's like to be a young person living sober, but also to kind of see behind the scenes of what it looks like when I record a podcast episode. It's not pretty, it's not edited and cute. Like, I literally sit at my dining room table and just ramble about the things that I'm super fucking passionate about, and I'm super, you know, just in, I don't know the word I'm looking for, you guys. Now I'm getting all tongue-tied. The things that I am really like coming to you guys from my heart, from my soul, from my truth to share with you. And that is what I fucking love about this podcast, is that I can connect with so many women about things like being young and sober that people are currently going through, and people are currently in the trenches and trying to figure their shit out. And I want to tell you, girl, like, if you are young and you're in this sober thing right now and you're feeling confused and you're feeling lost and you're feeling like you are stuck and you're just like treading mud right now and you can't get out, I want to tell you guys there is a light at the end of the tunnel. It always gets better. If you're at your rock bottom, the only place to go is up. Use your rock bottom, take those smashed pieces of what your life was and start to rebuild it piece by piece to get back to the top, because that's what a rock bottom is. It's a foundation, and it's a place and an opportunity for you to rebuild. So if you are young and sober and you've hit that rock bottom, or if you're young and you think you might have a problem with alcohol and you feel like you're hitting that rock bottom, use this as your chance. Think about sobriety. Think about looking at your relationship with alcohol and ask yourself if this is going to be a positive change for you. You know, if you don't have an issue with alcohol, this might not apply to you right here, but it might apply to someone you know in your life. It might apply to someone you care about. Maybe you can share this message with them and be like, hey, I really think you need to listen to this. I want you to be more comfortable with the idea of being sober as a young woman or as a young man, and not being afraid of it and not being scared of it, and being able to go into it knowing that you want better for yourself and I want better for you, and knowing that you can absolutely live a happy, fun, amazing life being young and sober. You can have an amazing career. You can have amazing friends. You can see amazing things. You can go amazing places. You can be anyone you want to be. You can go do anything you want to do. And if you're young and sober, it doesn't mean you can do any less of any of those things. It's not holding you back from doing any of those things. Being young and sober is just a detail in your life, and it's probably a detail in your life that can even make it even better. See, I get ranty and then I'm like, ugh. You know, if you're young and you feel like maybe you need to be sober, know that if it is a change that you might want to try out in your life, like, it could change everything for you. And like it did for me, I was a hot mess. I thought I had everything figured out, and I was an emotional train wreck. If you guys knew me, I was a hot mess fucking express. And getting sober for me changed my world. It changed my life. It made everything do a 180. I have a wonderful life. I have amazing friends. I have amazing family. I've got an incredible career. I've got incredible followers listening to my podcast right now, watching me live on Facebook, watching me live on Instagram. Like, all of this is because I got sober and changed my life for the better. And I think that shows right here, right now. The fact that I'm sitting here doing this, like, y'all, I'm about to get a little emotional, but like, my getting sober changed everything. I've got a beautiful life. I've got someone I love. I'm building a life with. We just bought a home. Like, everything has come together so beautifully in my life because I made the choice to better myself, because I made the choice to do what I had to do to make my life better. And I knew that this was going to change everything for me. I just don't think I knew how much. And it just makes me so fucking grateful and so fucking, like, I feel like I could just cry sometimes because it makes me so excited that my heart is so full that changing my life has brought me to where I am today and has given me what I have today. All right, let's wrap it up. It's getting a little long. So thank you guys so much for listening to this episode today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure you guys join me in the Slaying Sobriety group on Facebook if you want to talk more about this topic. We are a community of incredible women living sober, exploring the idea of sobriety, and we come together on a regular basis just to support each other, empower one another, help each other, you know, cheer each other on with our accomplishments. So if you guys feel like that would be a good space for you, the Facebook group link will be down in the show notes on iTunes, and then I'll also have it, if you guys go on Facebook, you can just search Slaying Sobriety and find it. And then also join us in the Her Best Fucking Life group on Facebook, because we also have a badass group of women going in there, and we always have a ton of light and laughs and loves in there. Light and laughs and loves, oh my God. We always have a lot of light and laughs and love in there, and it's just a fucking beautiful space that I'm really enjoying. So again, if you guys want to hear a little bit more about my story in sobriety, you guys can grab my book, Sober as Fuck. That is my first book I self-published. It is available on Amazon and Kindle. You guys, if you feel like you might want to hear a little bit more of the story and get a little inspo, feel free to check it out. I also have Sober as Fuck. Oh my God, see, this is when I start stuttering. I also have Sober... God. Okay. Do not start rocking, no. You guys can also check out my workbook, Sober as Fuck the Workbook. It is a 28-day workbook about understanding and navigating the relationship you have with alcohol. So this is not only for someone that's sober, but just for someone that wants a better understanding of why they drink the way they do, whether they are sober or not sober. It is literally for anyone. So you guys check that out too. But it's always the end I get tripped up on like this. But again, thank you guys for listening today, and I will catch you guys in the next episode. Okay, hold on. Let me cut this off. Okay. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know if you want me to do more of this and start recording more podcasts with live streams, because it's a long video. I'm gonna try to save it so I can like post it somewhere, but this is what it's like when I record. I sit here with my mic. You guys can't see it on Instagram over here, but here's my mic. Yeah, I sit here with my mic and I just rant. I let it pour out. I let it word vomit, and that's how it goes. I'm very blessed. I'm very lucky I get to do this as part of my career, part of my bread and butter. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little live video. Let me know in the comments if you're watching this If you're watching this later, hashtag replay. Thanks you guys for your support now and always. And I think I'm gonna go do some laundry and clean the house now. So you guys, this episode will probably be up next week. Yeah, I think that's all I got to say though. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks for being a part of this. Let me know if you enjoyed this, and maybe I'll try to do this more often. But I hope you guys have a beautiful rest of your Thursday. Mwah.